Welcome to Books on Air. I'm Suzanne Harris. Books on Air is really a conversation with an author about their latest book. Each episode explores that particular author's background, and we talk about their inspirations as well as what moved them to tell their particular story right now. It also offers a behind the scenes look at both the creative processes and the challenges of writing. It's not easy to write a book. So, whether you're an aspiring author or you're simply looking for your next great read, sit back and enjoy the insights from today's guest. Joining me today is Janet Dunn. Now, Janet's here to talk about her very important and very personal book, One Foot in the Right Direction, Bipolar, a Mental Health Problem. Janet, it's such a pleasure to have you as my guest on Books on Air. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here today talking to your audience.
This book is so personal. What made you decide to share your personal story with the world?
I went through an experience with when I developed bipolar disorder when I was 34 years of age. And it took away, when I got hospitalized, it took away all my confidence. And for 10 years, I struggled with the illness. And I felt like I was in a chasm where I couldn't find my way back to myself. So, but I had a lucky experience that I got sick in Germany, and the German doctors had a different approach to Ireland. And that started me on a new road of discovery because when I came back to Ireland, the Irish system was very archaic, and they just believed if you took tablets, you could cure yourself someday. And it was so after I came back from Germany, I started going to I paid for cognitive therapy, and that led me to Kundalini yoga. And those two areas, when I started helping myself, gave me a way to try and find my way. And then I had a lucky experience with an Aborigine healer, and he helped me. And so then I was well on my road. I was well on my road, and I never got rid of the illness. I still have bipolar disorder, and I still have when I overstretch myself, I can go into elation, but it's manageable now. Where that changed the dynamic. The first 10 years was just complete struggle. And then after I started being able to help myself, and then what happened one day, somebody asked me for help, and I wrote a letter to the son of that man. And then I said, "You're not stopping here. You're going to continue writing." And the book during lockdown, I just wrote one day after the other, explaining everything. And the book, yeah, I wrote everything that I knew, and that's till it was finished.
It
I
sounds
give
like
you a
the
complete
book,
answer.
it sounds like the book, in a way, wrote itself because you used your own experiences. Is that fair to say?
It is very fair to say.
And what a lucky thing to be able to get sick in Germany and all of a sudden discover
Mhm.
that there is a different way to treat this illness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Now,
completely helped me. Yeah.
I noticed the cover of the book. It's very simple and it's very interesting. And I wondered how you chose that lovely cover with the little illustration of the young lady down in the left-hand corner.
Well, I know I contacted an agency in England, House Publishing, and they worked with me. Their graphic designer picked. I sent pictures, but they picked this, and because I wanted the book to be published, I just went and said yes to everything that they asked me what colors did I like, and I said my favorite colors are yellow and blue. So that's it. Just that evolved very easy from House Publishing.
Well, it's so
There was
inviting.
no big talk from me.
It's so inviting
Mhm.
because it's so simple. I really like what you chose.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have no big idea on it. Yeah. We're all simple at heart anyway. We're only human,
It's
you
true.
know.
It's true. Now, you really wrote this book to try to help others who find themselves in a
Yeah.
similar situation to the one that you were in. Is that right?
Yeah. My like when I wrote, I said if it could help one person, I would be happy. But I really wanted to help people, to let them, to if it was to guide people if they're in situations that were similar to me. I really wanted to get it out there to reach people and families that are, when they have a child that gets sick and the child can't get their life back together, the family are daunted. Everybody is daunted. Like in my family, nobody knew what to do when I got sick at 34. So nobody knew. So it was an illness that the family cannot know anything about, you know.
Because it didn't happen when you were a child, that must have made it even more difficult
Mm,
to deal with.
yeah. No, it didn't happen, and it doesn't happen when you're a child. If you're like I was lucky, I think I had a happy enough childhood. I lived in a neighborhood that there was many children to play with, and that was a great foundation for my life. So just going out to play every day. It was a very happy. I was very happy in childhood. It was the adult life that I found hard. I made a bad choice in my marriage relationship. So I paid the price for that. So there was a bit of suffering that went on with that. So, yeah, my childhood, you went by your mother's guidance, and for me, it was a happy childhood, you know.
Well, as an adult, you do a job that I think is, I told you, the work of the angels. Tell me about the children that you work with and about the job that you have now.
Well, I worked as a care assistant for 18 years in the same school, and I cared for about 10 disabled children every year. And then that job changed title, and it became known as special needs assistant. So today I'm in the classroom with children that look the same as everybody else, but they have complex needs because they have dyspraxia or ADHD or anger issues. And they're coming from um, complex backgrounds because in the city of Dublin, we have a lot of people that are on drugs and they're rearing families, so that's hard. That's hard. It's a bit of a decay in the city, So that's the area that I work in.
You know, often when people write a book that's like your book that requires you to think about yourself and do a lot of introspection, thinking about your life and thinking about things that you've done and thinking about the good and the bad things that have happened, sometimes they will have some sort of surprising realization or revelation about themselves. Did anything like that happen to you?
Regarding the book,
Well, writing the book,
it
because
does.
the writing itself often makes us think differently because you have to almost sort of
Well,
step back, especially if it's a book about you. You have to sort of step back and look in at yourself from the outside. And
yeah.
sometimes that makes people see some things differently.
Well, I know now that I'm still on a learning curve. Um, And I knew when I wrote the book that I knew I didn't write everything down for everybody, because for me, because of the want to help people, I didn't want to bore people. So I didn't want to write the story of my life. You, I just wanted to keep it more aimed at at the at the needs for the other person. But writing the book was very lethargic. And it helped me to get some of it out of me because I really did go through those struggles. And and I really did find answers at those times. And when I put them into practice, I had little breakthroughs of improvements in my life. The book was wrote 6 years ago. It went to be published 2 years ago. And I still haven't said goodbye the the bipolar. So I'm still learning, there's still learning going on. Um, the journey isn't over for me, but, but, but
I think you may be
yeah.
a lifelong learner, but I think all of us are about ourselves. Um, Age makes you see things differently than you did when you were younger. And sometimes we try things maybe as we're older that we wouldn't have tried when we were younger. I admire you so much for what you've done. This is a very inspirational book. And I have to say that you have some funny anecdotes in here. There are some funny things that happened when you were a child, and you share some of those in the book. So it's a very interesting book. I was particularly interested in the yoga and the Aboriginal healer. Would you expand on that a little bit for me?
So the first person that was really fantastic in my life lives in America, in California. But he's actually from, I think, the Canary Islands in Spain. His name is Satantar, and he was a Kundalini yoga expert from California that came to Ireland 2 times. And I went to a yoga retreat, and so Christmas was a hard time of year for me because I come from a complex family myself. And I started saying, well, I'm not going to worry about Christmas anymore. I'll go for a retreat. And I found this yoga center, the Burren Yoga Retreat Center in Galway. And I went down there, and lo and behold, the yoga instructor was from after coming in from America. And the knowledge he gave, he talked about everything about your body, how your breath works, how how important your breath is, how important rest is, that not always working and doing. No, you find time for rest. And he explained so much, and I was so dumb before I went to that yoga center. But listening to this man, and he was funny. He had a great sense of humor as well, and he was so informative that the group kept asking him hundreds of questions, and it was nearly I asked no questions. I just listened and listened and listened. But one day they said to him, "And what do you eat for your dinner?" And he lives in California. And he just said, "Oh, if I'm hungry, I just go out and eat. I pick an avocado and eat that." But I thought that was a funny answer because they were asking him too many questions because wanted to give he wanted to give true knowledge to us and understanding. He was fantastic for my brain. My brain needed to learn all these things, and I came away so informed. I started one of my bedrooms into a meditation room because that's the rest part. And I done the yoga for a while, but it wasn't my life. I only done it for a few months, but it did really, really help. Really, really helped. And I've never forgotten what I've learned, you know. And then I went to Australia on a holiday, and I was took to an Aborigine healer. And so he explained that we need to keep ourselves in line. And he drew a little picture, it looked like a sand picture with 3 dots. He said, you need to keep yourself aligned. And he explained it in his way, but you have it in Christianity to be in line with God, to have a good day, always stay in line, aligned with yourself. And when you're being depressed or when you're not in a right place, you're not aligned. when you're thinking negatively, you're not aligned. So he drew that out for me, and he done a spiritual healing on me. And the tears that came out of me that day were unbelievable. I just couldn't, they were just falling out of my eyes. And I don't cry. So that was very, very unusual. And I couldn't control it. And the next day after his spiritual healing, I just sat at the side of the bed giddy. And I hadn't been giddy for years, a giddiness. And he really helped me. And I'm going to Australia in a few days time to visit my brother again, and I'm going to try and catch the Aborigine healer while I'm over there. Yeah, because the journey's not over. I wish it was, but it isn't over,
I love those two
unfortunately.
stories. I really love those two stories because you have tried every strategy in your book that you talk about. You have tried and you have incorporated in your life to some degree. And I think that's so valuable because often when an author writes a book, some of it will be theory and they've never really tried the theory, but you have done all the experiential learning that I think is so valuable for people. I'm sure that our listeners are now curious about where they can find the book. It's on Amazon, and let me give you the name of the book and let me spell Janet's name so that you can find it easily. The name of the book is One Foot in the Right Direction, Bipolar, a Mental Health Problem by Janet, Janet, Dunn, Dunn. Now, Janet, I think it's also available on your publisher's uh, website as well. Is that right?
Yeah, House Publishing,
So they
the
could just go,
American company that are based in London. House Publishing.
and if they wanted to just find you, could they just Google Janet Dunn?
Yeah, he's on Google. On Google, my name comes up in the search engine. Yeah.
Well, this is such an inspirational and powerful book. I know that someone who is listening to you and I talk right now, probably more than one someone, will be inspired by what you've said and how committed you are to helping yourself. And the theories and the strategies that you've given people in this book are so valuable. People will sit down, hopefully, and our listeners will become readers. And when they become readers, they will sit down with one foot in the right direction and they'll start to read. Now, this is not a simple book, it's a complex book. So they'll read parts of it and then they'll sit back and they'll think about it and think about what you've said and think about your experiences. And then they'll go back to the book and they'll read more. And as they read more, they'll learn more. But they'll eventually come to the very last page and they will read that very last page. Then they'll close the book either electronically or physically. Now, if you could sit down with that person just as they finish the book, what would you like for that reader to take away from your book, One Foot in the Right Direction?
That basically we can be in the wrong direction in our lives, whether it's alcoholism, bipolar disorder, whatever your problems would be. But when you align yourself and put one foot in the right direction, your other foot follows naturally and you're on the correct road. But it's the little things that you do in life to improve, because change doesn't happen overnight. It can be quite a long journey to change, for true change to happen. You know, you think you're changing one day, but you don't change. Next week you're back to your old tricks. So but when you start grounding yourself in tricks that really do help, do not self-criticize. You're only harming yourself. You're only insulting your own presence in this world. You have every right to shine in this world. I know trauma has affected you. I know that it's taken away an awful lot from your living, but only you have the power to put things right in your life. And it's the small things where you have to learn to love yourself. But when you put one foot right to say, to one foot right And please, God, well, I'm sorry for being religious because I know different people, but that's what's helped me through life as well. Um, um, so there's really my thing, just get one thing right, then you can get another thing right. And then you can applaud yourself for the things that you have accomplished because it's a true personal struggle. Yes.
Janet, you are inspirational. It is such a pleasure to have been able to meet you and share your book with our listeners. Thank you so very much for being my guest today on Books on Air.
And thank you, Susan, for drawing me out because not many people draw me out that I'm able to just be myself. So thank you. Thank
My,
you for your
my
interview.
absolute pleasure. Well, there's admiration from me so much about what you've done and who you are. I, I want to share that with the people who are listening to us because I think your comments and the book itself is not only valuable to people who are bipolar, but the things that you've said are so valuable just to all of us. I mean, we all find ourselves in those dark places. And you
Mhm.
grabbed yourself by your bootstraps and you literally pulled yourself up out of those dark places. And you have my admiration for that. So it's my
But with,
pleasure.
with but with a lot of lucky help. I was lucky, like I've been lucky the doors that opened for me.
But you had to go
So,
through those
you
doors,
know,
Janet, and you did.
yeah, yeah. Thank God they were there.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for being with me today. And you, our wonderful listeners, have been listening to Books on Air. Remember, keep reading, keep writing, and keep sharing your stories. Thank you so much for joining us.